So we talked about with the early stage of the disease, we call that more of a normalization stage of the disease, keeping in mind that it's pretty rare that anybody completely fits into mild, moderate, or severe. Most of the time, different things that are going on in the disease, they're kind of on that cusp where some of the stuff they're doing is mild, but some of the stuff they're doing falls into moderate. And they may even have some things falling into severe already, even though technically they're early in the disease. So, and also keeping in mind that this changes throughout the course of the disease. So it's a good idea to kind of pay attention to, because you may think, well, my loved one, this is where they are. They're right in the moderate, but they may still be showing some of the signs they're doing that's early or even late. So I encourage you to see each of the three. If you didn't catch the early stage, I believe, Jamie, it's on our YouTube channel. Is it there? Where you can go to YouTube, James L. West, and you could type in early communication, probably would bring it up because it'll search for you. That would do it? Okay. So the earlier stage, we call that more of a, we're trying to do normalization, keep things as normal as possible. The middle stage, we call more of a supportive stage. At this point, we're having to come alongside them because they're to the point that in most areas of their life, whether it is personal care, hygiene, bathroom, walking, eating, they likely are needing assistance in most areas at this point. So this is sometimes referred to as the supportive stage. And this is where we as caregivers are accepting and adapting to a new reality. So this was on last week where we just talked about what is communication, the idea of exchanging information back and forth between two or more people. We know that with dementia, everything that they do, everything that they say is a form of communication. Even a challenging behavior is a form of communication. They're trying to get an unmet need met in one way or another. So if you go back and you think to when you had small children, that newborn was able to get its needs met. Think about it. And they weren't able to talk to us, and they weren't able to reason, and they weren't able to be rational, but we knew what they needed because they let us know. And a person with dementia will always be able to let us know. We just have to figure it out. We have to get to the point that we're kind of like a detective with their communication, because their communication is going to change. And that's where we have to accommodate the disease because they can't. They're doing the best that they can with what they have left, but we have to accommodate it. So thinking about what all communication does involve, both the spoken word and those nonverbal messages. And we'll talk more about that because especially right here in the middle stage of the disease, lots of cues, gestures, body language, tone is very, very important to be able to keep that sense of normalization as long as we possibly can. We use this picture a lot. These are actual autopsy photos that were taken of a brain. This was a 70-year-old man on the right who passed away at end stage of Alzheimer's disease. Now, we know that there's over 130 different types of dementia, but we also know that Alzheimer's disease is the most common type of dementia. And we know that with each of the dementias, that the brain is starting to atrophy. So, but one of the things I wanted you to notice is, and Jamie, you were able to draw on there the other day. I don't know how to do that yet, but it's the language centers. Can you do that? The language centers of the brain and what's happening there. We can't expect the person on the right to act and behave and communicate like the person on the left can, because the language center is actually starting to go away. Those brain cells are dying. It's the big holes that you see in the lower left and lower right. I can see Jamie's working on being able to write on the screen.
I don't remember how I did it last time.
Okay, that's fine. We can see them. We can see them. Can you see my little cursor doing it?
Yes, you can.
Okay, so you can see these areas here. And as they are starting to lose the ability to find the words. They'll find a way to communicate. It just won't necessarily be with the words. We also know that that left side is going to go away sooner than the right side, and the left side is our regular day-to-day language. The right side is rhythm, right rhythm. So the right side is that rhythmic language, prayer, music, and unfortunately, forbidden words. So sex talk, racial slurs, curse words, those stay for a good long time, as many of you, I'm sure, have figured out, and may even be going, I didn't even know they knew that word. They knew it because at some point in our life, we heard it and somebody told us, I better never hear you say that word again. So we didn't store it on our day-to-day side over here on the left. We stored it over here with our special words on the right so that we know them, but we don't use them all the time. And unfortunately, those stay. So they'll use what they have to get their need met. So some things to expect in the middle stages. That formal language, like we just talked about, is going to be very limited, but you may see them start to sing or hum more. Just going around throughout the day, you may start hearing more humming and singing because they're retaining that. Music is going to stay all the way through to the end of their life. We'll talk more about that in a couple of weeks. And rhythm is going to stay all the way through to the end of their life. Being able to do sequencing is going to be increasingly impaired. So think about how many steps there are to getting ready in the morning. If you tell someone to just go in the bathroom and get ready for the day, and there's a toothbrush and a razor and a comb and a hair dryer and toothpaste and shaving cream and all the makeup, and what do I do with all this stuff? There's too many steps. So many times they'll just turn around and walk out. So I don't know what to do with this. Or you go in and they've got toothpaste all over their face and they're brushing their hair with their toothbrush because I know I'm supposed to do something and my muscle memory tells me I'm supposed to do something, but what? This is where we come alongside, we support, and we walk them through step by step in these middle stages. We don't want to take that independence and that dignity away. We don't want to just go in there and say, let me just do it for you. It'll be easier if I just do. Let them do it. We may have to get up earlier. We may have to change our time. We will have to change our time. But allowing them to take care of themselves for as long as they can. Past, present, future doesn't really mean much anymore. 3 a.m., 3 p.m. That doesn't really mean anything because time they're completely disoriented to time in the middle stages. You may start seeing some challenging behaviors more often. Anxiety is more evident and can be expressed through difficult behaviors because they're not understanding either. As hard a time as they are being able to communicate, they're also having that hard a time understanding what you're saying. We know it can take up to 20 full seconds for them to completely have what you just said, even if it's something like sit here. 20 seconds is a long time. And we start trying to fill it with, I said, sit down here, sit right here. You know what sit means. We didn't even give them time. Another example is somebody falling. I watched this happen on a video where someone fell and then put their hands out to catch themselves after they'd already hit the floor. It's taking that much time for the brain to say, I'm falling, I need to try to catch myself. And by that time, they've hit the floor and then their hands go up. This is part of the middle stages as that brain is beginning to atrophy, continuing to atrophy, not beginning to atrophy. Increased difficulty with the environment and stimulation, they can become overstimulated very easily. We still want to do things to stimulate, but we've got to be paying attention to their body language. They will give us cues as to when it's enough. I've seen a lot of people get to where instead of being in regular church, they only go to Sunday school. Because regular church has too many people, too many lights. We're getting up and down. Why is there a drum? Why is that? It's too much sound, too much overstimulation. So they pull back, or maybe they sit at the back when they used to sit in the middle. We accommodate it. They can't. The ability to recognize risk is very impaired, but they stay very curious about their environment. So risk would be things like maybe putting something on the stove, walking out into the street, picking or touching something that's hot. I'm going to put another log on that fire, and they're putting their hands right in the, it's just, they want to still help. They want to be able to help. They want to have a purpose, but the risk, they don't recognize risk. So we've just got to, again, accommodate it, figure out ways that they can still assist without taking their independence away from them. They may really start to recognize, have a problem recognizing familiar people. And they may confuse faces. So they may run through a list of names before they get to your name at this point, if they get to your name. And this is sometimes during this stage is when wives become sisters or mamas, and husbands become dad or brother. Because think about what they're doing. They're going back to what they've always known. They haven't always had a husband or a wife. They haven't always had a son or a daughter, but they've always had a mama or a daddy. They've always had a brother or a sister. They've always had an aunt or an uncle. So those of us who are the most important people in their life and have been for many years, as they go back in this disease, those relationships sometimes start to fall away. And they still know you're somebody very important and that you love them and they love you, but wife may be mom or daughter may be mom at this point. That's one of the hardest things on caregivers. More surprises will happen during this time. And when we are taking care of somebody and love someone with dementia, we get used to lots of surprises where we may be going, I never thought that would happen. Or as we hear so often, never thought I'd see that much of my mother-in-law, but I did. And it's just part of the disease. She didn't know to say, I'm too hot, but she knew to take her shirt off. So those type things is where we learn to roll with the punches. Lack of self-awareness. So communication changes in middle stages. They'll start to substitute words and lots of things and stuff. You know the thing, the stuff and the thing, and that thing. Because that's all, and that's where we make them. What does the thing do? Or show me the thing. Sometimes they can still show you the thing. That thing, and they may point right at what it is they're needing, or you may give them a couple of choices because they can't find that word that they're looking for. Easily and often losing train of thought, not able to keep up with conversation. So our focus switches to a supportive approach and the abilities that they have left. And again, we're going through this really fast because this is an hour program. We're doing it in 30 minutes. You're going to get the slides. Changes in middle stages of dementia. We've already said both speaking and understanding become more and more difficult. This also in the middle stages is where you may start to hear some speech that doesn't make any sense. It's called word salad, where it's just words. Or the first part of the sentence is a bunch of da 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 da. And they can start to do this even in the middle stages of the disease, where there's some da 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 da, and then there's a few words mixed in there. That's progression of the disease. All of this is a normal progression of dementia. Trouble naming objects, but they'll start to use more actions and behaviors to communicate. Big major gaps in memory at this point, not just recent memory. Sometimes families can use something like photos to kind of catch where they are in the disease by showing them photos and not quizzing them about it. You don't ever want to go up and quiz, what is that? Where were we? But showing photos and you start telling a story about that photo and see if they can join in with you. So 1968 trip to Grand Canyon is still there. And they were 40 at that time. So I know that those memories back are probably still pretty much intact. And then if they don't, not correcting them or scolding or anything. This isn't anything that they can control. Also in the middle stages, you may start seeing more paranoia and suspicion. And that is simply many times out of fear. They don't understand what's happening either. And I don't know why you're in my space and you're trying to help me do something that I should know how to do by myself. You're trying to take all my money is what you're trying to do. They don't have the ability to be reasonable or rational. So again, you may start really seeing those type things happen in the middle stages. Loss of impulse control, not as in control of their emotions as they once were. So some more communication tips. At this point, like we said, they're starting to require more direct care. They're needing more support with everything that they're doing. So when we're speaking, we do want to make sure it's a good idea to kind of be square shouldered with them and be looking them right in the eye when we are starting to talk to them. We know that vision changes again in the middle stages. Earlier, it's like they have on blinders. This middle stage is more like binoculars, or sometimes it's described like that scuba mask that you might have on, where they're not seeing all the way around here, but they're seeing right here in front of them. And if I'm standing off over there talking to them, they may not even be hearing what I'm saying, even though I'm in the same room. Being very patient, giving them plenty of assurances, not asking big open-ended questions, but you can keep things to yes, no, and limiting choices, but still giving choices. Would you like to wear the blue or the red today? And I'm holding the blue and the red. Instead of handing them the entire menu, would you like a hamburger or a hot dog? And if that's still confusing, I'm having a hamburger, because lots of times just, well, I'll have what you're having. Like we see earlier in the disease, they'll do a lot of that. But still giving that choice of a couple of things. Repeat what they say back for clarification, because sometimes they'll even catch themselves, that wasn't what I meant to say, if you say it back to them. But of course, never doing anything like, but you told me you know what, I never said that. Our favorite word, if y'all been on any of our programs, you've heard our favorite word, okay. Okay, that doesn't mean you're right. That means I heard you. That's all it means. Okay. And then don't pull away. Really nurture your relationship during this time. What we see happen is that as the disease progresses, people start to pull back, and they're not touching as much. And they're not, as they become more of a caregiver, that relationship, it's like the husband-wife, the mother-daughter, the father-son, that starts to get further and further apart instead of closer and closer together, because you're becoming their caregiver. And you can let the caregiver title replace the, that's my mom, that's my husband, that's my dad. So we encourage you to still really work on your relationship as much as you can. And please continue to touch them, positive touch, compassionate touch, actually a program that we do, compassionate touch with somebody. Because think about a very young child who is scared or is hurting or is upset. The first thing we do is we hold them, we touch them, we pat them, we rock with them. And as this disease progresses, that type behavior is going to become more and more important, that you do that with your loved one, because it shows them that they are not alone and it reassures them. So please make sure you're using touch. Again, they're going to rely more and more on visual gestures and cues, where we may, as we're starting to eat during this time also. So think about how we learn to eat. We start with someone feeds us, and then we use our fingers, and then the spoon, then the fork, then the knife. They're going to lay it down just like that. The knife's going to go away first, and then the fork, we'll use a spoon, then they'll go to fingers, and eventually they probably will have to have assistance with their meal time. You notice I didn't call a person a feeder, because that's not dignified to call someone a feeder. They need assistance at mealtime. But for the longest, especially in this middle stage, if you'll sit directly across from them and you pick up the spoon, they will mirror your actions. They'll pick up the spoon. If you put some ketchup on the fries, they likely will put some ketchup on the fries. So they'll start to mirror. Instead of you doing it for them, just sit directly in front of them and do it and encourage. And during this middle stage, most of the time they'll mirror. They'll even mirror personal hygiene things like brushing teeth. If you're brushing your teeth, you get them going and that muscle memory kicks in and they'll sit there and brush their teeth for 5 minutes. You probably have to stop them. They may brush their teeth for so long because time doesn't mean anything, but muscle memory is still there, especially right now in this moderate stage. Okay, at this point, they're not going to be able to hide their changes any longer. Earlier in the disease, they're really good at being able to cover up and hide, where we can lead them through a conversation. Boy, those cowboys didn't do very good, did they? Nope, they didn't do very good. They're not doing well. It's cold outside, isn't it? It's cold outside. And we can lead them through a conversation earlier in the disease. Usually by this moderate stage, they're not able to be led through a conversation, but they may still have those social skills where, because they're reading your body language and I'm saying, boy, it's sure cold outside, isn't it? And I might get a smile and a head shake because I'm smiling and shaking my head. And so I can still kind of lead them in that way. And that's a way for us to connect and have a conversation. Using more of those forbidden words. Here's some preserved memories, long ago memories, and emotional memories are always there because emotional memories are held in the amygdala. The hippocampus part of the brain goes away, but that amygdala stays intact, and that holds emotional memories. And that's why, as this disease progresses, if they had some trauma as a child or as a young person, sometimes that can come back. You know, I've had people well into the disease get scared to be in a room by themselves or to sleep in a room by themselves. And it's because they're reliving or going back to a time where that was dangerous for them as a young person or as a child. So that's one of those things I always try to bring up because it's shocking sometimes. And sometimes things come up that families didn't even know about. They had no idea that something had happened. And then they get to talking to aunts and uncles and go, oh my goodness, but those emotional memories stay intact. That's the point. Emotional memory is still there, even if they can't tell you that. Confabulation stays intact. The ability to tell a good story usually stays intact. So confabulation is just the technical word for lying or telling a story. So they may still be able to do that. Singing, and there's that social chit chat. Some of that may still be intact, especially if you're doing it, they'll mirror or follow you. So gestures are important. If you're needing them to take off their jacket, you take off your jacket. If you're needing them to put on something, you put on something. Again, mirroring is big in the moderate stages, but you've got to be careful about what emotions you're carrying because they'll mirror that also. They'll mirror your negative just as much as they will mirror your positive. So here's some other communication tips. We're not going to try to reason, argue, or confront. We're sure not going to say that word remember. That's our big, bad, dirty word with dementia. We never want to say remember. Do you remember? And that's hard to stop doing. If you're still doing it, try really hard to stop doing it. You can do things like, I was thinking about the time we went to the Grand Canyon. When was that? What was that car we had? Even if you already know the answer and you're kind of asking them, who was this that was with us? Let's see, who was that? And I'm just doing it in a way without using the word remember. When we say remember, we're reminding them that they forgot. And one of the hardest things is to not take the words that they very likely will say personally. That's very hard, especially if they're still saying our name and then they string it together with some of those forbidden words. That's difficult to not take that personally, but you've got to keep in mind, go back to that picture of that brain that we looked at earlier. That's why. Also, not making assumptions about their ability to communicate or understand. This can be one of the hardest things with the disease as they start turning that corner from mild into moderate. We've become think of those stages of grief. We eventually get down to acceptance. Okay, we've accepted that we have some type of dementia. We've made a plan. Here we go. Everything's rocking along. They're on a plateau, and then we start seeing changes. But we had a plan for the early stage, and now we have to start making a plan for this middle stage. So we can't go, but 2 weeks ago, you could use a fork Why are you not using it? Because we're trying to reason with, they don't know why. They want to be able to still use that fork. So we're going to switch and we're going to pre-cut their meat while we're still in the kitchen, because we're not going to do that in front of them. Dignity. We're going to cut theirs and cut ours while we're in the kitchen and bring the 2 plates out and the meat's already cut up. That way I can use a spoon. Or I can pick it up, and that's okay, so they can still feed themselves. So it's us continuously accommodating the disease, making sure we're giving them plenty of time to respond. We're the ones that want to go like this. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, we got to go. That's not happening. And most of you have probably had that happen where you have tried to rush somebody with dementia, and that's going to backfire on you every single time. We've got some good stories. I see many of you shaking your heads going, yep, I got some stories about trying to rush somebody, and we never got there, as a matter of fact. So this is a good chart also to use. Again, you'll get this with verbal cues, visual cues. If your loved one's still at home, if they can still read and comprehend. Now keep in mind, they'll be able to read words long after they can comprehend what it says. So they may be able to read the word, like, because we'll say label in your kitchen so they can still put things away. So put a label on with a sticky note that says spoons, forks, plates, cups. And they may be able to read the word plates, but do they know that this is a plate? So keep that in mind also. They will be able to read words longer than they'll be able to tell you what that word is. And then touch cues. Being able to do a hand under hand. We actually have a program we do where we teach what hand under hand is. It would be hard to show you online, but it's basically where you reach out your hand like you're going to shake someone's hand. They take it, you turn it so that you've almost got each other like a butterfly. And then you can actually assist them where they feel like they're feeding themselves because you have their hand, but you're doing it. But dignity, they feel like they're brushing their teeth. They feel like they're combing their hair because it's their arm moving, but you're the one moving their arm. You just kind of stand back. You can look that up. Teepa Snow teaches hand under hand on YouTube. So real quick, I know we're right out of time. Validation therapy is where you are validating and accepting your loved one's reality and beliefs, values and emotions, even if it has no basis in your reality. That last quote there, there's no other successful alternative but to accept what the person with dementia claims is their reality. We have to enter their world. So it's called validation therapy. It's not where we're trying to bring them to us. We are going to them. Instead of respond to the feelings rather than the words. So if I'm getting cuss, 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 called every name in the book, but they're doing this the whole time and they're kind of beating on their belly, they're trying to tell me something. It's not that Holly's getting cussed. It's that somebody's trying to tell me their stomach hurts. They need to go to the bathroom. They've got a UTI. These clothes are too tight. They're telling me something, but I've got to not hear those words or I can get too caught up in, well, she called me a, doesn't matter. They're trying to tell me something. Using their words and gestures, agreeing with them or distracting them to a different activity. That's where that, okay, I think we've got some ice cream. I'm going to get some now. And I bet if I look, I can find some cookies to put on it. And I'm leaving this room because right here, we're starting to argue and I'm okay. And my voice is up and I'm smiling. So I'm not fighting with you. And I know where the ice cream is, or I know where the dog, I'm going to get the dog, or I'm going to turn this music on because I've got to diffuse this. And if necessary, you leave the room to avoid confrontation, not getting caught up in whether it makes sense or not. It's not going to. This is dementia. So finally, remember, they're saying normal things and doing normal things for someone with dementia. That seems real simple, but think about that for a minute. Everything they're doing is normal to dementia. You can't control the disease. You can only control your reaction to it. A symptom of this disease is memory loss. They cannot remember, and they can't remember that they can't remember. So you telling them over and over again that they didn't remember isn't going to do you any good, because they're not going to remember that you told them they couldn't remember. Then who's the one that's sitting there looking? And they cannot remember your reassurances. So keep saying your reassurances. The 4 best ways to distract somebody with dementia: sweeter the better. Food, their music, children, and animals. YouTube videos of children and animals work great as well. This is just a breakdown of nonverbal communication. And look at that. 7% of our communication is the words, our body language, and our tone of voice. And that doesn't go away because that's held in the amygdala, and we know the amygdala stays intact. There's our information. I'm about 4 minutes over. I know that was a lot real fast. Does anybody have any questions? Again, you'll get this and you'll get the recording later today.
I do have a question.
Okay.
You mentioned putting labels in the kitchen, and the words are helpful. Would also a picture of a plate or a picture of a cup be helpful?
Absolutely. Yep. And most of the time pictures work longer than the words do. That's why when we're talking about toileting, putting a picture of a toilet on a bathroom door, or putting kind of that universal bathroom sign that we all learn when we're little bitty. We learn which is the boys' room and which is the girls' room. Put that on your bathroom door, or leaving the door open so they can see the toilet. But yes, great idea. I'm glad you mentioned that. I meant to mention that, where you can put pictures, or if they're going to help put the clothes away, put a picture of socks and a picture of, where they go.
Can you tell me, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Can you tell me again when the support group meetings are?
Wednesdays at 1.
Okay.
And Fridays at 11.
And how do we access that?
We can send you the link to that. Jamie, have you got, if we
I may have it. I may have it in some of the communications. I just, I can look back.
Okay. And it's also on our website. And then if you email us at caregiver@jamesowest.org, we can send you the link.
Okay.
It's on our Facebook page as well. If you
just
want to connect, you can either do it from our website or our Facebook page.
Okay, great.
You can find it, or you can email us. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And I've got just a question about the type of touch that we were talking about. That touch is called compassionate touch. Compassionate touch. Do we have any of that already up, Jamie?
Like recorded? We don't. We can, if y'all are interested, I guess, schedule a program to do compassionate touch and teach you the techniques and really the importance of skilled touch. It's real easy. It kind of sounds like teaching you these techniques. It's real easy to apply these skilled techniques and how and when. And the program would be about an hour. So let's talk about scheduling one of those if y'all are.
I think it would be really good, especially if your loved one is, it's important throughout, but if they're moderate, kind of moving into the more severe. Wilson, I think have you done the training actually?
Yes, I have. The approach is what's great, because you can, I don't know, you scare someone coming up to them, or whatever.
Right, that's what I remembered you talking about it before, and encouraging other people to use it. So, but it is called compassionate touch, and we'll get a program scheduled. And if nothing, just thinking behind it, the reason why it becomes so important, because we forget about that. That is what brings comfort to someone who's scared. And the way that we would treat a child who was scared or not understanding is so different from how we treat an adult with a disease. In fact, we will stop touching.
I'm using that on Nancy right now. As a matter of fact, that's our way, and she's getting great comfort. She takes my hand, brings it to her chest, and that's it.
Yeah, that's it. That's perfect. And then the program also really teaches about understanding, like Wilson's talking about right now. He's getting what she's doing with that. You know, maybe she can't do the big, oh, this is my husband, but just bringing his hand up there to her chest and understanding, that's her saying, I want you right here by my heart. I want you close to me. I want you. She's communicating.
Yeah.
And he can still communicate with his wife, who does she have any words anymore, Wilson? Does she have any words?
There maybe two. Has I, and I've heard her say bye.
Okay.
But hi and bye, that's about it.
But they're still having communication, which means they're having quality of life, and and he's connecting with her as a husband at that point, not a caregiver. He's being her husband and she's being his wife. It's something. So we'll get that program scheduled. Be looking for Compassionate Touch is what it's called. Anything else? We appreciate y'all staying on with us, and be looking for that, and be looking for this recording. Please pass them on. If you've got other people in your family or other people that you know, you are free to share our slides and our information. And like we said, all of our videos we post over to our YouTube channel. Is that what it's called? You young people, I can't keep up with all that. All right. Thanks, everybody.
I just want to say thank you because I'm learning a lot. So appreciate it.
Good. I'm glad you joined us. Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of your day. If you're in Fort Worth, stay warm.
Yes.